Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is Corey Babka from the Marks Group Live. Excited to be here today teaching you TMGC 204. Yes, I'm reading this. Advanced Workflow Part 1. The Advanced Workflow piece is, like I said, Part 1 of 2. There's a second session that we'll have after this one in a couple days. So today we're doing that. We're happy to be teaching it live in person. Today, what we hope to cover is the following. We're going to go into layout rules, why and how to use them, why would we need them, what are we going to use them for, scoring rules, which is lead scoring. Interesting piece about Zoho, you can also do it with contacts and accounts, which is pretty interesting because most of the time when we talk about lead scoring, lead nurturing, lead ranking, or scoring, ranking, nurturing, I should say, we end up looking at leads only. So we can actually go a little bit higher. We're also going to talk about validation rules, which are those that force your users to put in certain pieces of data, lock them down so they can't put in certain pieces of data, so on and so forth. Okay, not to be confused with things like phone number and social security number, masking, but you can use it for that if you want to. And then why and how we use assignment rules. So that's what we're going to go over today. Okay. Just making sure that we're all set. This is my first time training live, so bear with me. If Megan's been doing it, she's been doing great. This is my first day today. Feel free to throw things at me and going from there. Okay. Just to kind of go over some housekeeping here. We're going to spend about 45 minutes going over the classwork. Opening the last 15 minutes, so we'll be here about an hour for chat discussion where I can answer any of your questions provided by you in that chat window, okay, on the right hand side of the window. If you're using a mobile device, the chat window is usually a little bit lower, okay, on the screen, but on a regular desktop it's off to the right, okay. So chat window down below, and I'll ask you to put any of your questions for today's class in the chat window. That way we get that feedback, that back and forth, okay? The chat window will close a few minutes after the class is over. I encourage you to continue asking questions for clarity on our main web page where we also have a chat function, okay? Also, you can send an email, which at my last slide, I'll have an email address that you can send any of your questions to as well, okay? Just do me a favor, when you're doing a chat online, make sure you mention that the chat is regarding a class topic, and then we can shoot it off to the right people and make sure the right folks are actually the ones to answer that, okay? Myself, Megan, instead of more someone that's not as suited, especially for the admin classes, okay? If you're having a resolution or speed issue, please check the gear icon in the lower right corner of your video screen, okay? I recommend you set it to auto and just leave it at auto. It should go up and down based on what your connectivity is, okay? But then it also allows you to do full screen, adjust your resolution for internet speed if it gets too choppy, things along those lines, okay? I'm also kind of managing the video here, looking at it. I'm on a little bit of a delay when I see it, so bear with me. If there are any problems with choppiness, please also let me know in the chat, okay? Okay, very good. And last thing before we get to it, there's a download section at the bottom of this class listing, okay? And the bottom of the video, you scroll down the page, there is a document that you can either download now to follow along, or you can download it later. It's kind of that bullet point item to refresh your brain as to what we went over today. It's not a manual, okay, but like I said, it's a nice way to follow along and reference after the class, okay? Just have to scroll down the screen to get to that download link. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to adjust my system here, and I'm going to say let's get to it. And we're going to go to the scene here. We minimize this. I'm going to move my stuff over here. Bear with me a sec. And then we just go from here. Just make sure we're all good. Okay. Excellent. Should be good at this point. Like I said, a little bit of choppiness on my side as I'm trying to work through my smoothness here. Okay. I've got a lot of things going on in my line because I don't want to miss any of the chats. Okay, so we've got our screen going here. We've got our video up. You should be seeing my screen of Zoho over here. So let's just jump right to it. Okay. workflow, or again, advanced workflow part number 1. All right, so takeaway 1 and what we're doing. So why and how to use the layout rules, okay? So layout rules are a very, very nice way of showing, hiding. They can hide sections. Like if I go look at a record, I go to a contact record, and let's say I'm looking at Robert here. So let's go back out. Let's go to Alice Tester. If I go look at this and I see address information or visit summary, okay, this is what's known as a section in Zoho. I could actually hide this information if I wanted to based on a layout rule, okay? I can also show and hide different fields based on a layout rule. I can also make certain fields mandatory, almost like an if-then statement, okay, if I use a layout rule, right? And that's what it is. So for our example, we're going to do something where if I look at a deal, I'm going to go here and look at this Morlong Associates. What we're going to do is we're going to hide certain sections. Let's see if I've got it in here. We're going to hide different sections based on whether it's commercial or residential, right? So right in here I've got 2 choices. What we're going to do is I'm going to hide or show sections based on what we're looking for and how we can get it built out. Okay, so we're going to walk through that together just right now. Okay, so but that's essentially what we're going to do. While we're in there, I'm also going to go over a couple of the other things that we're doing. Okay, so we're going to go here to our gear icon. If you're in CRM Plus, it's a gear. If you're in Zoho 1, it's actually a wrench and a screwdriver. Okay, when I look at this here and I say, you know, I go to my module is where I want to be. I'm going to minimize this so you can see it. I'm going to go to my module area, and what we of course have to do is start with what module we're talking about. In this case here, we're going to look at deals. Okay. Go into my deals module. Right away, we've got our layout rules. Okay. We've got layouts, validation, things like that. But I'm going to say layout rules right here. Okay. We're going to go to validation later. But layout rules is, so here's show commercial section. Okay. I'm going to actually remove this. Actually, it's already there, but we're going to create a new one that's just going to be just like it. Okay, so I'm going to create this. We're going to do new layout rule. Okay, all we have to do is give a name to it. Okay, so actually what I'm going to do is we're going to remove this one. Okay, and we're going to recreate it. New layout rule. And then this way, I'm also walking through a little bit on the document that we've had today. So the document is the supplemental information here. So I'm going to do that as well. So we're going to say show commercial section. Okay, and we can describe the rule if we want. Okay, and we can describe. We can put in information. This is to show or hide your section based on the type field. Now the type field is already there. You may have to, in your case, create a field similar. If you're to do this on the account level, you could do the same thing. Okay, account type, right? And then choose a primary field that controls this role. So this rule. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for type. Now I can also scroll down, but I'm just going to type it in and select it. And then we do this. Okay, choose my condition. I say is commercial. So at this point, all we've said is the name of the rule, okay? What's the field that controls it? What am I looking at? And I'm just going to say what the type, what the type is and what's the criteria, okay? And then we say next. Now at this point, this is where it gets a little bit more fun, right? Because here we're starting to look at the very familiar looking, or it may be for you, I'm hoping it isn't for you. It's kind of that process flow area that workflows work off of. Blueprints kind of have something along these lines. So there's a lot of stuff. So it already says when type is commercial, what do? Okay, we're going to trigger an action, right? So if we select trigger an action, we're going to say show section. Okay, we just do this. And like I said, we can also do show certain fields if you want instead. We can set mandatory fields like company name may be required if the type is commercial, something along those lines, right? And I'm just going to say show a section, okay? And here it says what section, and we say commercial. Okay. Now by doing that, we save that up. Okay. I can do other things here. You can also click the edit button if I want to. Like there's other criteria that we could do in here if we want to. But I'm just going to do that. It's trigger an action, show that section, and we just go from here and then we save it up. Okay. And make certain fields, and we just do that. We go back, and there it is. Okay. If I want to review it, it's already there. Okay. It can actually show me what's going on. We know it's in effect, and it's already been activated. We can always deactivate it as well. Okay, right there. So let's see it in action. So if I go back to my deal area and I look at more long associates, okay, actually let's go to an active or an open deal because these are closed one. Let's go to Chapman. Okay, so here's a deal, right? We've got deal information. Type is existing business, so therefore nothing's shown right now, but there's our residential. Okay, now I could go here and say existing, and I'm going to change this to commercial and save it. And by doing that, now our commercial section shows up. Now we may also want to do an additional item that hides the residential, and that's fine as well. But you're getting the idea. What you're looking at is my listing of sections is built by these headers. Okay. If I wanted to only hide certain fields, I could hide certain fields and go along those routes. Okay, if we wanted to. And that's the layout section. Okay, and again, show fields, show sections, mandatory fields. We do a lot more with the business, with the required rules. Okay, for instance, if I know that probability is over 90%, I can use a layout rule to make sure that the approval button is done by the manager. Okay, something along those lines, right? That's what you'd want to have. If we're at negotiation review, we wouldn't want to make probability or revenue required at this point. Okay, if it's not here, it's being calculated by our quote, but you understand what I'm saying. There's certain pieces that as we move through stages of deals, you may want to have additional required fields, and that's kind of where you're at. All right, so next one, let's go to the scoring rules. So moving on to scoring, okay, that allows us to prioritize certain records based on the conditions that we're laying out today. Okay, for instance, I mentioned it earlier in our call that a lot of it has to do with leads. Okay, lead scoring is a huge piece of any marketing automation system. Like marketing will score the leads and then they bring them into the CRM. Well, if we don't have that system in place, we can do the same thing on this side, where we can say, let's rank our leads and then assign them to the right person based on where they are. Okay, so we're going to go back into our setup area, the wrench and the screwdriver. Okay, I just want to make sure that my frames are still doing okay. It looks like I'm still doing pretty good with the frames per second, which is what I want to see. No drop frames, which is great. Again, just checking my own housekeeping on my side. We go to our, in the automation, we're going to go into automation here. If I could find my spot. I was just here. We'll go into setup again, right? And then automation, scoring rules. I'm sorry, automation's right here. I was looking for another section. Sorry, my fault. Scoring rules, right here. So we go into scoring rules here, and this is where you, as you can see, I'm empty, and this is fine. What is interesting and unique to Zoho is I have the ability to link or to rank deals, contacts, and accounts, which is really, really impressive, okay? Because most of the time it's just leads. If I was able to rank my deals and constantly have them flow to the top based on the value of the dollar, the potential revenue, the probability, the close date is less than 30 days. Let's rank those higher. That's perfect. Then I have my sorting is always done when I go into my deals area. And I could have a ranking number that would be in here and it would sort to the top at all times. Okay, let's go back into setup. I know I digress. Let's go to scoring rules. We're going to go to leads. Okay, so what's going to happen here is we're going to do it in the leads area and we're going to build our conditions. So what our example is for today is we're going to do something where if annual revenue is greater than a certain amount, I'm going to add points. If the annual revenue is less than a certain amount, I'm going to lower the points, right? If the refer field contains data, I'm going to add some points, right? And then if there's a number of chats, meaning as in our site here, you know, if there's a number of chats that are done, you know, here going forward, and you've got chats with either Sales IQ or something like this with our system that we're tracking our chats and our appointments, you know, that adds up because those people are engaged, they're involved. So again, you can also use other pieces. Could be number of phone calls, number of history items, number of appointments, all adds to that ranking, okay? And again, don't forget to ask any questions, to use the chat. Use the chat window on the side, or on a mobile device, use the chat window down below to ask me any questions if we need to go over anything, okay? You could throw me off my game and start to interrupt me all day long. That's fine. I enjoy the challenge, right? So if I sit here and I say leads, I'm just going to click the add button. Pretty user intuitive. And I'm going to say annual revenue is greater than, and let's say $1 million. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Making sure I've got that. All right? And it says here, add 10 points. So that's what I'm going to do. So let's actually make this $10 million. So we add 10 points. Okay? And we save that. Now I can also, and actually we're going to do it this way. We're just going to do 1, and we're going to add it, okay? And then what we're going to do is I'm going to cancel out of that. I'm going to save that guy, okay? And then I can add another if I want to, right? So I've got my annual revenue is there, which is fine. Then I'm going to go here. I'm going to add another one that is, whoops, add. And we're going to say annual revenue is less than, let's say, $1 million. We're going to subtract 10 points. Okay? And then we say things like that's fine. And then we can do another one where we add it. And we say, well, if the refer, I'm just going to type in refer, is empty, or I'm going to say is empty, right? We're going to subtract 5 points, okay? And I save that, right? And so we've got, you can see what I'm doing here, a whole bunch of things going on, okay? And now, so there's also things like email insights, campaigns, all that, right? And then I can run it, right? So there's a scoring, right? So it has the option that you can run that lead scoring for all your records at the right time. You can have it moving forward, so from now on it's only going to do it, or I can run it right now and it will blast it out across all of my leads, okay? And what happens is when you do this though, after your scoring, you know, you implement the scoring rules, right? A new section is added to the module called a score summary, where you're able to see that breakdown of the records, you know, of the record score, okay? Now, so if I run this right now and say run it for all, okay, it's going to be overwritten and that's fine, and I say yes, continue. This is just our demo database, so I can do this just fine, okay? And then I'll be notified once it's completed. But what my point was, if I go back to my leads area, okay, and I look at, you know, Leslie, okay, I should have my score summary as well in here, okay, it's a different section. That's what I'm looking for. There's my score summary. So there's my score, and you can see they're all calculated fields, but this here is now, once we implement them, we actually have these numbers, okay, and they're in here just fine. And what we've got is that ability for you to rank it, change your views around, so on and so forth, right? So you're actually seeing it that way. That you can rank it and you can see it and you can do other things. Now, what is also known for lead ranking is or anything scoring, is the ability to also add workflow, right? And this is when the creativity comes into play. This is when you really get interested in what else we can do, and you're starting to leverage against the other pieces of Zoho. So in this case here, if I start to take a score summary and I say, you know what, when it goes over 5, I need to assign a task to the owner that they need to call this person right away, right? So it's not just watching these leads kind of come through. you're also looking at it saying, you know, I need to make sure that my team is aware, so I'm going to assign activities. I'm going to maybe blast out an email right away that says, you know, thanks for, you know, being engaged with us. You know, someone will be with you soon, okay? All those different pieces that allow you to do it, okay? And that is very, very important to consider when it's not just a number in place, it's what else do we do with that number, okay? All right, moving forward. So if we start talking about validation rules, okay? So validation rules, a little bit of talk, and again, don't forget to chat. Any questions, anything I'm going over, anything that's confusing, please use the chat window. All right, so validation rules, what they do is they allow us to specify limitations or formatting, which I mentioned earlier, like phone numbers and social security numbers, making sure the format works. You can do that in a validation rule. However, most of the time validation rules are really used for if field A equals this and field B does not equal this, I need to create an error so it stops the user from moving forward, okay? As in, if I'm looking at a deal and I start seeing this one here, or let's go back to an active deal, sorry. I want to go back to open deals. We'll just do all deals, I guess. So all deals, and we say negotiation with the Chapman deal. If we go here and we look at this, if I have negotiation review, but the probability is not high enough, or if there's no activities, or if there's I'm missing certain pieces of data, next step, lead source, you know, all those different pieces, almost like the require rules. Like you can do it here where we'll ask you for something. A lot of times, like in our case here, we're going to do where if commission is greater than X, but the discount is greater than X, okay, that's a problem, right? We want to make sure that that doesn't work out, that the commission and the discount isn't greater than a certain amount, okay, done. Other one, closing date is a certain date like that we're closed. Closing date is a weekend. Closing date is a Sunday, a Saturday. Something along those lines that you could say, this is not a good date, okay? So, you know, along those lines is what you can do, but it's kind of like an error, and you can really get creative with these because we use these a lot to also work with our clients to give them warning pop-up messages so that they are doing the right thing. As in, imagine if you had a revenue was over a certain amount, a potential revenue on a deal, right? But you want to say, make sure that you've got this in writing or you've got this in verbal agreement or something that they know that this is the price. You can actually pop out a validation rule that it's been verified or something like that, that if that verified checkbox is not there, then it will pop up a warning and say, make sure you verify this amount. Make sure you verify the inventories in place. Something along those lines is what it would be, right? So there's a lot of things you can do with validation rules, but they're used essentially as that warning, okay? So we're going to go into the module area again. So we're going to go to setup. We're going to go to our modules, and we're going to go to deals. And like I said before, we were in layout rules earlier today. Now we're going to go into validation rules, okay? And we're going to create a brand new rule. You're going to have to choose a field that we're going to validate on. So on this one, we're going to use commission. Now I can scroll down or I can start typing. Happens to be at the top, so we're going to do that. So if we say the commission is greater than, and I could say a certain amount of money if I wanted to, if I say the commission is greater than $50,000, okay, and say next, now it's going to enter your error message, right? It's going to ask you for what is the error message, okay? You're going to say commission is too high based on value, or you could say something like verify commission, or in our case here, we're going to say, you know, maybe it's too high. Okay. Let me just scroll down a little bit. Keeping consistent with what we've got here. I just want to make sure I've got it right. Okay. Yeah, so if I do this and say commission cannot be greater than 5%. So we've actually, in our document, and this is where, you know, I'm kind of going back a little bit. When we look at it and we say, well, how do I get this done if I say 5%? So if I do greater than 5, let's get rid of, let's change this and make this 5 because I think it's a percentage field. Sorry about that. And I'm going to say commission cannot be higher than 5%. And that's it. Okay? And I save it. And that essentially is all we need to do. Now, you can save this here. We can also specify other criteria. So if I save this, that's fine, right? I can also look at this though, this commission rule, okay? And I can make some changes so that it's going to be, here's that. I can also do this here, say the rule is executed for all records. Maybe I do it that it's only on specific conditions, okay? Such as, I don't know, house accounts is okay, right? Maybe the owner of the deal falls into this role, okay? And that's when if I look at the owner, I'm sure the owner's in here somewhere. Yeah, that's deal. Here's deal name. If I say like account rep, I'm trying to find where that field is. So if I do this and I can actually make it, if we add the owner field or we make the owner field choosable or the role through a function, we could have it that if the role is based on a certain level, that it only fires for salespeople, not sales management. So the sales manager could actually make this change, and that's fine. Okay. Otherwise, it's going to be all records. Okay. We save that up, and then it's all good. I go back to my Chapman deal. I'm going to look for my commission. There's my commission there. And we're going to say 7%. By doing that, commission cannot be higher than 5. Okay, so I can change that back to 5 and save it, and then you see it goes away, and that's what it would be, right? So it could be $50,000, it could be $5,000. In this case here, we're just using this, we're assuming it's a percentage. It may not be, depends on how your database is set up, but you can see what we're doing there and how it works out, okay, and where that error comes into play, right? So again, you know, when we start working with those pieces, we've got our validation rules again, just kind of going over a little bit more of what we've done already. We kind of went over the layout rules and where we'd use those, whether required fields. They actually goes really nicely with the validation rules as well, because you can sit here and say, here's my layout rules. This is what I'm going to hide and show sections. I'm going to hide and show fields. I'm going to make certain fields required. Where validation rules would be, I want to make sure the right data is in there if it's this, this, and this, right? I want to give a warning if they're entering the wrong data, if the wrong data is being entered. You can also do other pieces where if the expected revenue is over $30,000 and the commission's over 5, that might be okay. But when the expected revenue is lower than $35,000 or lower than $30,000 and the commission's higher than 5, now we have a problem. So you can get very complex with your validation rules, and you can put those into play to make sure that this works out for your team. Okay. So the last item that I want to kind of go over, and again, we also went over the scoring rules for the lead ranking. But the last item we're going to is going to be the lead or the assignment rules. Okay. Now assignment rules are very, very useful when it comes to creating that separation between your imports, your new records. If you're using something like Zoho Forms, where people are entering data and a new lead is coming in to the record, you know, they're coming into your CRM system. I go to our website, I hit submit, a new lead comes in, it's got some information. Well, I need to assign that lead. A lot of times what you have is people will just assign it to a general mailbox or a general user, and that general user, their responsibility is now to go through and assign it to the right people. Well, that's fine unless there's a real science to what we can do. If there's a real science to how we assign it, then we might as well take advantage and let the system work for us. Okay? What we end up with is that ability to automate the assignment of the leads, the assignment of the contacts, the ownership, so that we don't have that one person that's wasting time. Now, don't get me wrong, there are times where you'll assign something based by state, interest, your territories. All that's fine. All that's good to go. But what happens if it falls outside of those states? So for instance, if I have New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Coast, but then someone comes in internationally. Well, if that's the case, what we can do is we can make that international fall into a general bucket. What you end up with is you end up with that piece where we assign 80% of our stuff on the automated level, and then from there, we end up going a little bit further, that it does end up in that general administrator's box or their leads, and they can assign those themselves manually, but at least we've taken care of 80% and made it a little bit more, like I said, automated, a little bit better on the, a little bit less manual, I guess is the words I'm looking for, okay? So assignment rules are there, right? Now we set up the assignment rules. We're going to go to set up the automation and then the assignment rules. Same place that we were in before, okay? So in our case, for our example, we're going to set something up like if the mailing state is Pennsylvania, if it's New Jersey, or deals with amounts greater than $10,000 assigned to a specific user, or you can even round robin it, which is really interesting because what you can do, we do a lot of this with leads. That when leads come in, you might just round robin it. Like as in, Corey got one last week, so we're going to give a new one to Megan. Rachel got one as well, so now Kelsey's going to get the next one. And we can kind of go through our system and do it that way. However, if we have something where Zoho is the product, I'm going to give it to Suzanne or Megan or Rachel as a round robin, where if it's Dynamics, it's going to go right to Kelsey right away because we work with a couple different products as well. So, you may have that same situation where it's a product interest that you need to divide it into different people, and then within that, you can even round robin it, okay? So we're going to go into, with the lead assignment rule, right here we've got module, and we can do contacts, cases, deals, jobs even, right? But we're going to do the leads here, right? So we're going to go into, now let's just scroll down a little bit, make sure that we're doing it right here. We're going to do, I believe we're going to do leads. And so we're just going to end up making it the lead area here, all right? And we're going to create the assignment rule, like it says. In our document, it says create X. So you can choose whatever you want. But in our case, we're going to do the lead assignment rule. Okay? And the rule name is just going to be Pennsylvania Contacts. We're going to save it. Actually, let me go back out and make sure that there is none. Okay, there is none. So we're going to create a new one here. Say Pennsylvania Contacts and save it. Okay, created by me, that's fine, right? And now what I have to do is I have to create the rule, the rule and entry. Okay, so we've got it here, not a big deal. I can rename it, but now I'm just going to create this entry level. So the criteria, right? The criteria is going to be the mailing state. Scroll way down. I'm just going to say state is Pennsylvania. Okay, and now I'm going to assign this to a certain person. Now I can choose it to the admin, or I can choose it to the general user. We have two users in here. One's an admin, one's a general user for your training purposes. And so I could say the gen user goes to here. Okay, I could also just make it here, or I can search for other users if you've got a huge list of 50 users. Okay, so I go here. I can also do assign to users with a round robin. And so there's a list of users. And I would choose in and say, you know what, we're going to do this and put those people in. So you can do a round robin, and you can also do it by role, right? And I could say, you know what, I want managers to have this one role, and that's what we're going to do the round robin. So there's a lot of flexibility with what you can do, right? And so if you do the round robin, like I said, you've got your users to circulate through. You can choose, I actually like that, to be able to say, from my list of users, I'm going to do all my support people, or my if their product interest is Zoho, I'm going to choose my 4 Zoho consultants and let them round robin through it, and they're responsible for that. Okay, but in this case here, we're just going to do this, right? Now, the other piece where it's really, really valuable is that how do I add a follow-up task? Okay, so if I add a follow-up task here, and I choose my task, I'm actually going to do this and say, I'm going to add a new workflow task. Now, which is interesting because they're like, well, why am I going to add a new workflow task? Well, in a way, that's what we're automating this, right? So I'm going to add this new workflow task from here. There's leads, workflow trigger date, and there it is. And we can create this task from here, right? You won't lose your work, but what you do is it jumps into here. It allows you to create the task that what you want to do, and it will be immediate follow-up, based on new lead, something like that, right? And you could do plus 0 days, which means right away, okay? Status is, not started, priorities high, assigned to. It's actually going to do it based on the record owner, so in this case you could leave that blank, and you would save that, right? And so if I just save this, all right, days cannot be empty, so let's do it's due in 0 days. Okay, and there's my thing, right? Now if I go back to this over here, I can probably, I'm going to look here to see if it is, immediate follow-up based on new lead, and I would put it in there, right? And that's add new, but I'm going to do it this way where I did the lookup, okay? So I did the add new, which adds a new tab. I could also select from existing that you've already created, okay? Follow-up, blah, 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 for blah, 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 right? Follow-up for Babka for, the Marks Group is what it would be, last name company, okay? So we can do it that way, or like I said, you could add a new one. And I've got immediate follow-up, and then I save it, okay? Assign cannot be empty. Assign to, I did that already. There we go. And there it is, okay? So assign to when the state is Pennsylvania. So now we add another rule entry. Because what happens is it goes through this order of things. So the next one might be New Jersey. And we're going to create a new one. Right? So I say another rule entry where state is New Jersey. Okay? And I'm going to assign to also the gen user. I'm going to show you why in a second. And then we're going to add a follow-up. I'm going to add that task and say immediate follow-up based on new lead and save it. Now, how this works is we've got these rules in place, okay? Now, I would not, because we're doing Pennsylvania, I'm actually going to do it this way. I'm going to say lead assignment by state. That's probably a better idea of what you would want to rename it, okay? And if we do that here, there it is, all good, it's in place. Now, I go to my leads area. I'm going to add a new lead. We're just going to call this. Now you can see my lead ownership is me, but I'm going to say, we're going to say ABC Company. Okay, and first name is going to be Michael Smith. Okay, title is VP, M. Smith at abccompany.com. Any other required rules? I don't see any, and I'm just going to save this. Now, if we did our thing right, now our ownership should be changed. It's not. Our lead owner is not there. So I need to go back and change that rule as to why is it not there. I know why it's not there, because we didn't put in a state. And I'm going to save this. And by doing that, I'm going to refresh it. And I'm betting it's not going to work. And it didn't. And the reason why, and we're going to change this again, the reason why is because I messed up. I have a validation rule based on state. Okay, so this is real stuff, right? This is real training, live stuff, live. So I'm going to move Michael Smith over to the recycle bin. We're going to do it again. We're going to do a new lead. I'm going to say ABC Company. Okay, Michael Smith. Okay, VP, M. Smith at abccompany.com. And what I'm also going to do is, if I've got validation rules in there, don't you think I should have it? That's a required field? I probably should. I'm going to do 19460 on my zip code. And now I'm going to save this. Okay, and by doing that, now, oh, my stuff didn't work. I should have, my lead rule should have worked based on that firing off. That state was Pennsylvania. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to troubleshoot it and figure out why. State is Pennsylvania, immediate follow-up. That's what it should have been. I could reorder these, but I don't want to. And this is where I could drag and drop. I'm just going to say state's Pennsylvania. I want to look at this, save that. I want to look at this guy here and edit this thing and see where it's at. I have assigned a TMG live admin. That's my problem. So I wanted that. And I also wanted to do add a follow-up task. And I'm not sure why that didn't work, but let's do that instead. So I save that. These are both now TMG live gen user. Okay. Now if I go back to my leads area where Michael Smith was, if I change this, I'm going to try and cheat here. I'm just going to change this to just New Jersey right now. Right? And I'm going to get rid of the zip code. Save that. Get rid of the zip code because that doesn't match anymore. And we're going to go in here and we're going to see if it changes when I reload. It may not, because that's what I need to check with my team whether this happens. So let's do it again. Let's delete it. We're going to do a new one. And we're going to do ABC again. Right? Get rid of that phone number is fine. I can do Michael here. I'm not going to, for a scope of time, I'm not going to do his email again. And I'm going to say, I don't want that. And we're going to go into state. And we're going to say Pennsylvania. Whoa. A lot of autofill stuff going on, right? That's the Chrome thing. That's not my Zoho. Okay? And I say save. Now my lead owner is right there. I'm going to save this. And I'm still not seeing it. So let me work with my team to figure out why. Because I should also see my open activities. Now it could be that it hasn't fired yet. I do have my ranking. There's my lead ranking that we went through earlier. I've got a score of -5. That's because there's no refer. Okay? But I'm going to check out the assignment rules to see what I did wrong. And I don't, at this point, honestly, not really sure. Because if I was doing this correctly, unless I missed something, this should be assigned to the right person here with that. Let me go back. I just want to check out one more thing just to see. And when this happens, and it's active, I know it's active, read name, created by, it's assigned to, when the state equals, and the state is. All right? We've got it there, assign ownership. Yeah. I'm going to check with my team as to why it's not working. Okay? Because this is what it's supposed to be. Now, I know that it could be that when I'm doing this, and let me just review some of my notes on my side. When I'm doing this, though, it could be based on import. Like I'm going to have to check on this to see if maybe I'm doing it wrong here, that a new lead doesn't necessarily matter. And it might be more regarding the online submission as opposed to imports of data. Because when we go to leads and we do imports, a lot of times you'll do import leads, and that's when we use these assignment rules. So it could be that that I'm confusing assignment rule with this new lead here, because this could be more of a workflow item. But let me check with my team, okay? And then we're going to update the supporting documentation to reflect that where it's useful, okay? And we'll go from there. Apologies for any confusion, but I want to show you, the goal of today was to show you how to create them, how to make them on your own, okay? So as we went over the layout rules, we went over validation rules, we went over scoring, which could be leads, contacts, accounts, and we also went over these ownership assignment rules and how they, and so they're not really workflows like make this change to this and assign a task and send an email, okay? This is more of those other workflow items, those other things on the side that before these particular areas existed, what we had to do was we had to make these through workflow, right? And so what ends up is when we're talking about the the workflow items, like I said, back in the day, what we used to do is you'd create something that would say, let's make a workflow that when the state equals Pennsylvania, we're going to move it off to this owner. And you don't have to. You put it in a separate category. This is an assignment rule. This is a layout rule. And it became very, very helpful when we're doing our development. Okay. Any other questions to what you've seen today? Please use the chat, like I've been, kind of asking all morning. The on-screen chat, go ahead and use that. If there's any other questions I can answer. I'm going to wait here for a couple minutes afterwards. You let the logo kind of run for a little bit when we do the wrap-up screen, okay? And then, so just keep throwing them out there and I'll wait a little bit while I close out. So I did want to, thank you for joining us today, okay? You can check your other, our other calendar items. I'd recommend that you check the calendar for future upcoming trainings. Right now we're doing 2 to 3 trainings a week. We're going to be upping those as we go and a little bit more each time. So again, please check out the calendar section of the site to see upcoming trainings, all right, what we're going to be going over. If you have any suggestions for other classes, other topics that you want to do, by all means, we're open to it, and we'd love to do that. We enjoy that feedback from our customers as to what else you'd like to see, okay? Any questions, support@marksgrouplive.com, okay? If I didn't get your question in the chat and you want to send me an email, support@marksgrouplive.com, it will get to me. I can forward it on to the other person, other team members in mine if I can't answer it, okay? That's kind of the goal of the support email, as well as I can forward it to the right individuals, especially if the chat was a little too complex for today's class, okay? And we'll answer it this way. Thank you again for attending, and then we'll see you next time. Again, check out the calendar. Check out the calendar for our upcoming calendar items, our upcoming trainings. You can also get our archive of videos of our past trainings are also available on the calendar link on our website. So I recommend you go there and check out what you've got, okay? It doesn't look like there's any other chat questions coming, so I would ask you to have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.